Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you are looking to get married, you are engaged, newly married, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have successfully navigated those winding roads over the past 18 plus years.
Join us on this journey as we discuss real life experiences, both highs and lows, and what we have learned along the way. Happiness, grace, passion are some of the things we all strive for in marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us. Welcome to Destination Marriage.
Welcome to episode 9 of Destination Marriage. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are thrilled that you have joined us for our journey today.
Yes, we are.
Today we're going to be talking about the Enneagram Personality Test. What it is, what it says about us, and are there insights for a marriage by taking the Enneagram test and seeing the results.
There's actually a number of different sites out there for Enneagram. There's no shortage of articles, other versions of the test, but we chose to use the Enneagram Institute at www.enneagraminstitute.com and paid $12. It was only $12 to do the test. It was really fun.
There's a lot of like shorter versions, and we didn't know how accurate they were.
Yeah, I would recommend taking the full test. It's not timed. It's 144 questions. Each question has 2 statements, and you have to choose the one that is most likely how you would think or act. Some of the questions you might feel that neither one is a good answer, but you're supposed to choose the one that is most like you.
Right. So we both completed the test. I think I did it a little bit quicker. I'm a by nature fast test taker. I've taken a lot of these personality type tests for different jobs and work interviews and stuff. So
it took me a solid 45 minutes.
I try to go as fast
I'm a
as
slow
possible.
tester.
Well, I mean, you can overthink them, right? You can think through the question if you want to, but they try to say for these types of tests, just go with your gut. What is your initial response? Like what's, because you're not solving a math question or anything. It's just when you see one of the two, which one makes more sense to you?
You're just cracking the code on who you are as a person.
That's right.
Not that serious.
Not that serious. Yeah. Don't overthink everything that you are and who you are as a person. Yeah. But it was interesting. It was a lot of, you can't really outthink the test. Some of these tests, if it's for a specific job or something, you can kind of gear your answers towards the type of job that you're going for, and that...
Or with the result that that they're looking for.
Looking
I really don't
right.
think there's a way to do that with this, though.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't... How they combine and figure out the 144 questions, it's very scientific. I mean, I looked it up. It's been validated, and, I don't know what psychologists and psychiatrists think about it, but it's out there. It's definitely something. And over the years, there's been a lot of different versions of personality tests and stuff, but this one's about as thorough as I've ever seen. So
yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
So in Greek, Ennea actually means 9, and gram means point.
So there's 9 personality types in 3 different centers: the instinctive center, the feeling center, and the thinking center.
Yes. So for reference, the 9 personality types, because, and I guess, that's where the name came from, but they have 9 personality types, and they are the reformer, the helper, the achiever, the individualist, the investigator, the loyalist, the enthusiast, the challenger, and the peacemaker. Those are the 9. I would give you read the definition for each, but they're very lengthy, and you can definitely look those up. Plus, I would recommend not even looking up really the definitions before you take the test.
Yeah.
Just take the test, and then obviously it'll tell you exactly what your results are.
Yeah, I didn't want to know any of them because I didn't want to maybe bias myself in any of the questions or anything like that when I took it. Yeah. And so they email you the results. Well, they give them to you instantly as soon as your test is done, and then they email them to you. And it's a 33-page breakdown of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
It goes into so much stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read Jackie's results, and Jackie's going to read mine. And it was really kind of crazy how on point
it's pretty dead on.
It really is, yeah. So some of it's a little scary because they do talk about at their worst what happens with this type of person or this type of relationship, and it's well, that's not me. It's
okay,
and
some of those aren't. Yeah, it's not definitive if you're not in that place of your worst self. Yeah, but things you could maybe just be on the lookout for. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. And what it does, it actually stack ranks them. So like your number one that you score the highest on is kind of tends to be your number one personality
Stronger
type.
traits,
Yeah, your
yeah.
strongest trait. And then it goes from the highest to the lowest. And then so your top three typically is kind of like a triangle on this kind of odd graph that they have where they plot out everything. So we won't go into too much with it as far as all the details, because like I said, it's 33 pages, but we're going to talk about some of the highlights. And then what we're going to do is they actually have this entire matrix where you can look at, okay, if you're personality type X and you're personality type Y, how do those people interact together in a relationship? And so we'll talk about that in the kind of context of our marriage, and it's pretty interesting, some of the results there too. So I will.
Do you want to read first?
Yeah, well, why don't you jump in, baby?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are Tommy's results.
Tell me about me.
I'm going to tell you about yourself. So Tommy actually, his results came back as personality type 3, which is the achiever. The achiever is the success-oriented, efficient type. They're adaptive, excelling driven, and image conscious. Generally, 3s are effective, competent, adaptable, goal-oriented, ambitious, organized, diplomatic, charming, into performance, and image conscious. 3s get into conflicts by being expedient, excessively driven, competitive, self-promoting, appropriate instead of sincere, boastful, and grandiose. At their best, 3s are inner-directed, authentic, modest, admirable, well-adjusted, gracious, interested in others, and self-accepting.
Interesting.
I would say
pretty on point.
Yeah, I would say a lot of those are on point. So obviously, like Tommy had said, in the report, it gives us a multiple pages on pages as far as all of the findings and a breakdown. I have some highlighted areas that I'm going to touch on here as far as recognizing 3s. Again, he's the achiever. 3s are, above all, goal-oriented. They get a particular objective in their sights and then actively engage in activities that will bring them closer to whatever they seek. To achieve their goals, 3s learn to be highly adaptable. They are able to change course when necessary and may even do so several times, including a change of career, if that's what it takes. In all of their dealings, 3s value efficiency and effectiveness, and they are often prized by businesses for these values.
I say that word in emails all the time, efficient and effective.
Do you really?
I use those words all the time. That's why I was laughing when I read that.
Well, there you go. They are extremely goal-driven, and once they are given a task to perform, will do their best to make sure that it is done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That's very much you. The problem is that 3s can be efficient to a fault, becoming accomplishment machines, brushing their real feelings and needs aside to get the job done. This way of living can leave 3s feeling empty and emotionally isolated, despite the success they may be having. Are you feeling isolated and empty?
No, but think about some of my habits. If I'll get lost in a project that really
in this zone.
In the zone with it. And yeah, it's nice to have something for the house or whatever it is, but ultimately a lot of times, and we talked about this, I'll do it as a way to kind of escape or to make myself feel good or accomplished about something that I actually got something done, and get isolated. Yeah. And in turn isolate the family. So it's very interesting how that pretty much pegged me pretty accurately.
I would say so. If you start when you get into a project, I mean, you are like a machine. You're just in that project. Nothing's going to pull you away until it's completed. Right. Which can be a good thing, though, too.
Or a bad thing. If it sacrifices other important things that, like your needs and the boys' needs and other things. So.
That's true.
Very interesting.
That is interesting. But I think, and obviously there's more to it. I'm not going to read every single page, but just in those highlighted areas, it's very much on point with, just who you are and, and it gives a lot more detail, as, just little things here or there, depending on what your personality type is. Is
there anything that you read through there that maybe not trying to match it with me, but was kind of like an aha moment for you, or, oh, that's interesting, I wouldn't have thought about it that way, something like that?
That I felt didn't really align with you, or?
just that you found interesting beyond just kind of things that we both agree that I am that certain way? Anything that stuck out?
I mean, nothing stuck out that I in reading it, I felt like, wow, it does sound a lot like you. It's like 3's can be found at the gym. Yeah, that's very much you. The fact that you focus on those projects, what you see value in. I didn't see anything that was a light bulb moment or alarming.
Good.
I mean, wait a second.
You're going to keep me. All right.
I didn't see anything like that. But no, I think a lot of it was really on point for you. It says that also, that you like to enjoy sharing self-development tips, developing career skills. You're a hard worker, diligent, effective. I mean, those are all positive things, and you're very much that way, And of course, this is not, there's also another portion to this. It'll say certain things like at your worst.
Right.
And I think when I had read the at your worst, maybe there were some things there which...
It's like scary because you read them, when you read it, you think, I'm not that way. Oh my gosh, am I that way?
For any one of these, if you read the at your worst, it's pretty negative. But that's
right.
the whole point of it, is to highlight, hey, you need to be aware that this is potential, weak areas of your life that maybe you would need to work on. Maybe you don't at this time, but maybe you will in the future.
So when you read it the first time about yourself, your results, did you consciously oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. Am I that way? Then you have to kind of take a step back and be like, oh, this is just saying at my worst. This is how I could act.
Yeah.
But I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, am I that way?
I thought so in the beginning when I read it. I was like, that's really negative. And I felt, it was alarming to me. And it felt a little like, gosh, am I that terrible? Or am I
it's a little scary.
And mine was more so heavily focused on anxiety, I think, on mine.
And then you got anxious thinking about it?
Yeah, and then it made me feel anxious.
Imagine that. All right, so Jackie, my beautiful bride, is type 6, the loyalist. Then type 2, then type 4, top 3. Type 4 is the individualist, and type 2 is the helper. So that's your top 3. So the loyalist, type 6. Generally, 6s are reliable, hardworking, organizing, vigilant, dutiful, evaluating, persevering, cautious, anxious, believing and doubting, conservative and liberal. 6s get into conflicts by being pessimistic, defensive, evasive, negative, worrying, doubtful, negativistic, didn't know that word existed, reactive, suspicious, and blaming. At their best, 6s are courageous, cooperative, disciplined, grounded, secure, faithful, self-expressive, funny, and affectionate.
I am pretty funny.
Yeah, well, obviously. It's the only reason I married you. So the type 6 exemplifies the desire to create a stable, safe environment to cooperate and create with others and to be adequately prepared for the various difficulties that life presents, which that sentence there, you always talk about being prepared and planning, and I'm a planner. When you're not feeling like you're planned, you feel anxiety sometimes around things like that. It's interesting.
I do.
Yeah. This sentence I really loved. It said, once they have decided that someone has passed the test, which what they were talking about is when you meet someone new, you're cautious. Not you, but a 6 tends to be cautious and doesn't just give their heart to a new friendship or things along those lines. But once someone has, quote, passed the test, there's almost no limit to their loyalty or to the sacrifices that 6s will make for the sake of the trusted person. I thought was
that's definitely
pretty on point for you.
Yeah, that's really on point.
6s know that once they make a commitment, they do so 110%. They find it difficult to leave a relationship once they have begun to trust someone and to rely on them. Once they have established a solid relationship, they show their trust and affection by supporting the other person in every way they can, especially by being reliable and trustworthy themselves. One sign that 6s have issues with trust is that they approach others with a sincere but cautious friendliness. Yeah, that's what I was referencing there. When 6s are relaxed, they have a natural talent for engaging people and for finding common interest. It's funny, they often get get others to like them, by joking around and bantering, even though, which is absolutely you. When you're comfortable in a situation and you're meeting new people, you absolutely just, your personality just shines, and you're laughing, and I know you laugh from across the room, and I love it. I hear you laugh. I hear
My
the
loud laugh.
just joy and trust and compassion and all that wrapped into your smile and your laugh when you're talking with others and meeting new people. It's infectious in a good way, not in a COVID-19 way. Yeah. I did, we didn't talk, like you said, it didn't talk about like the worst. We didn't focus on that for the purpose here, because like I said, it's 33 pages. We could be here all day.
Night. Yeah.
But I think the anxiety component and understanding that it's kind of a natural, because you're cautious and because you're, always looking for things. You give me a hard time about street smarts versus common sense, and you grew up in the Bronx. You had a different childhood than I did, and you learned. It was taught.
I think my antenna just. I
your antenna is always up. That's a good. Yeah, and I tend to maybe default to trusting people until they burn me, versus you just don't trust them until you trust them. Once you trust them, then you're all in, and you're a very loyal person, fiercely loyal, as I like to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. I mean, this is great. I mean, it's helpful, and I think we'll talk about it, the relationship component here in a second. But like, it's helpful for me as your husband to learn more about you generically through this test.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, okay, well, how do I, as your husband, like foster that, or not get angry? If your personality type comes up, just learn to mold into you, and you mold into me.
Or maybe just kind of, if when we're both reading one another's personality type results, or Enneagram results, just like you mentioned before, obviously this is kind of a way for me to crack the code on how you think, maybe why you do the things that you do,
instead of just getting angry,
instead
or
of getting
by it.
frustrated, because your brain just doesn't, or you just don't naturally think that way. You may not respond the same way, but when you're reading it, it's like when we would have a conversation, if we didn't agree on something, or we didn't communicate something the same way, or something upset me and it didn't upset you, if we had the conversation around it, it would just be frustrating, because I didn't understand where you were coming from. You obviously were not seeing from my side, but reading the Enneagram test results, I feel like kind of takes you out of the equation, and you're reading what the expert behind the Enneagram is saying, about you, Tommy, as a person. So it's really helpful, I think, for anyone to take it in any relationship. I think can be a useful tool, even if we've been married 18 years now. So some of these things I'm like, oh yeah,
almost 19.
Yeah, almost 19. That's right, almost 19.
A little over a month.
Yeah. But yeah, some of these things I didn't think of before. I think it's great. But
so let's talk about what each type brings to the relationship. And what's cool is you go onto the Enneagram website, and under Learn, I think is the tab, you go down and you click on the relationship tab or whatever that is, and it'll say, okay, if you're this personality type, you click on the number of your partner or your spouse.
Right. So if you're a 3, which you are, then you would click on
I clicked on the 6.
Yeah.
And then it pops up, and the interesting first sentence on what each type brings to the relationship. Surprisingly, this is not a common pairing. I was like, oh, good. We're off to a good start with our relationship.
They're like, how did this happen?
Although these two types can work very well as a team. And I thought that was really interesting, because we talk about the fact that we're a great team all the time.
Yeah,
and
work well together.
And a lot of our friends that know us really well, that have seen us act as a team and work together, make that kind of comment as well.
Right.
Not necessarily just random people we meet or in short order, or have some like a surface level relationship, but those that like really know us, our family, our close friends that know how hard we work together as a team. So I was encouraged by the second half of the sentence, even though the first half of that sentence didn't start off so hot.
Yeah.
So Threes can bring an enormous sense of self-confidence and the hope of success that is assured that this relationship is a winning team or that this couple is the best ever.
Woohoo!
Common goals bring them together. I love that. They are both practical and want to achieve tangible things in the world. Sixes bring grounding, industrious hard work, perseverance in difficult times, and personal loyalty to the three. Sixes provide warmth, support, and a great deal of practical good sense. You bring a lot of good sense to me, that's for sure. Not that I'm off like with some wild, crazy ideas, just you ground me quite a bit.
I would have never thought of that. I would have never thought of that until I read this. I mean, I would definitely say warmth. I feel like that's definitely me. But yeah, I would have never thought that I grounded you. But that's good to know.
Yeah, and you bring a lot of really hard work, but there's a lot of times where I will bring some kind of like the cheerleading a little bit to you and support, you know, positive words to try to build you up. Yeah. I mean, you build me up too. I'm just saying, like, that is a personality type where I'll do that for you. Yeah. You know, quite a bit. So very interesting. I love this sentence we just highlighted. It said, in short, they are both doers, which is very much us. Like we're both like very much just a get stuff done, do things. You know, we don't.
Very proactive.
Very proactive. Try to stay as organized as possible. Fail all the time, but you know, stay active. Like we can't sit around. Right. Not much. Unless we're on the beach with a drink and cocktail in hand.
Cocktail in hand.
Then we're good.
Respect for each other can grow as each continues to discover the other's good qualities.
I love that.
Yeah, I think and I think that's also something that grows in a marriage. You know, because then you learn new things about each other. I think you had mentioned there were certain things that maybe you didn't recognize qualities in me that you recognize more recent, maybe in the last couple of years, more so than maybe in the start of our marriage.
Yeah, because I think this is like really important, obviously, for marriage, but it's definitely something, and from a maturity standpoint, I've tried to focus on, because it's easy to, why do you love me question, right? Which, you know, you ask me that a lot, and it's romantic, and it's very it's a nice moment, right? It's not superficial. It's not. Sometimes when you ask it, I may say something, oh, because you're hot, or you know, like, you know, whatever. But sometimes you just want to hear why. Yeah. But I think from my perspective, if I'm just proactively thinking about that, not necessarily to say anything to you, just thinking through, I really agree with that. Like, because of our personality types, the respect, as I've grown closer to you and I respect you more for who you are, it makes me kind of I've thought about those things quite a bit. Like I mentioned to you earlier, like your loyalty, your, you know, the relationship you have with our sons, just your hard work, all these things that I'm like, wow, I really respect that about my wife. And it's interesting that this tells us, yeah, well, that's what these two relationship types do. Now's your turn to tell me all the good things about me.
I totally agree. Why do you love me? No. I agree with that as well. I feel like also, as you've grown as a husband and as a father and as a man, there are things that I notice now more so that I respect about you, that I love about you, and just the way, you know, you care for me, protect me, the hard work that you put into our family and our home. There's just so many things that you've grown into that I've noticed, especially over the last, I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 years. Yeah. That just make my attraction for you that much stronger as well.
I like that.
Yeah, so that's always good.
But I think it's easy, especially in an earlier part of marriage, is to only focus and to dwell on the things that annoy you about the other. Yeah. And I have to catch myself. I feel like, no, I think it's a positive here. Like, if my head goes towards like stewing over something that you did that makes me angry, right? Maybe it's not the actual whatever happened, but just she always does that or that. Like the fact that I think I've matured quite a bit. I really try not to dwell on that and just focus and just ignore it and be like, that's a moment in time, not who she is. If you made me angry about something.
Yeah.
And then focus on what we actually have in our relationship and who we are as a couple, and not think about there's a big difference between what someone did and who they are.
Yeah.
And if you let what someone did to you, if you let that thing like represent who that person is, that's not healthy, you know, especially if it's a relationship you want. You know, if somebody burned you to the point where it's just not really,
it depends on what it is,
salvageable,
though,
and
yeah.
you move on from that person or that relationship, whatever. But I'm more talking about day-to-day stuff that could compound or could kind of stack on build off one of them until you have bitterness. But I think that respect for you helps, and obviously the love and the passion I have for you helps me to forget about the little things like that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, huh?
That is interesting. Well, it goes on to say this can be very enduring and this can be a very enduring and successful couple as long as heart-centered values and deeper principles keep them both grounded.
Oh, yeah, it's like what I just said.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I could have just read that sentence and it would have we could have saved 5 minutes off this episode.
No, I love it. It says these two types have similar negative qualities in common. Both are looking externally for reassurance to make up for secret inferiority feelings and insecurity. Both want to be socially accepted. What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting, and this is where it skips over to the potential trouble spots, and then it goes to like at their worst, this relationship does these things. But so I think that we are open with each other about that. So it's not it's real. As who we are and like what we struggle with sometimes, but we're open about it, and it's not something that, because what it talks about in here is that a lot of times these types of personalities will keep that from one another.
They'll avoid
talking about it.
Yeah, that doesn't apply. We do talk about it,
but there are some truths there, right? Like we do want to be socially accepted, and
who doesn't?
Well, some people don't care. It is an important it's an important part of our lives to have those friendships and the social circle. Yeah. Not for status, but for community and for friendship and those things. But and we talk openly with each other about feelings of inadequacy at times and struggling with that. Yeah. So it's interesting that they pretty much nailed it on the point, except that we have, I think, evolved and grown emotionally together around that. Yeah.
I agree.
So then it goes to at their worst.
This is the scary part.
Right?
I feel like,
So we'll skip over some of it, but they said they can deteriorate into a relationship of robotic functioning in which real feelings are not discussed, and both develop social lives away from the other. 3s will try to keep up appearances and are often embarrassed by 6s, revealing that the pair is in trouble. Eventually, there's a quiet deadening down of any real enthusiasm or interest from both in the other. Instead of healthy skepticism and questioning of the 6, or the playful teasing and challenging competitiveness of the 3, both sides present an increasingly, bland mask of normalcy, yikes, to themselves and the world until something gets exposed. Wow. So, obviously, we hope that we're not there, and we're not. But
no, that sounds awful.
So what's your takeaway there, though? Like for our marriage, as something to avoid, how do we, what do we do there?
Well, I think a lot of that would be, having open communication. Obviously we don't want things to get to the point where there's no communication. There's a quiet deadening down of any real enthusiasm. What?
Right. But here's, I think, for me, the takeaway is if we ever see that we have become robotic in things. I mean, sometimes, look, there's seasons in life where there's so much to do, or there's something traumatic or dramatic going on. Yeah, where it's like you're in the zone and you have to be because you're taking care of so many things.
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily a relationship, right? That's just life for like a moment. But like if we notice that like our day-to-day relationship,
We're just passing each other by.
yeah,
kind of thing.
and it's robot, or even when we're together, it's robotic.
Yeah.
That's where it would be like a I think bells should start going off. Like, oh, remember the Enneagram? Like we need to figure out what's going on,
Right.
and stop it.
And again, that's saying at our worst.
Right.
There's a lot of in between there. So,
Could be. Yeah.
I mean, for any couple,
Sure.
before you get to at your worst. But I mean, grateful we're not in that place, but it's still good to know.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I'm really happy we did this.
Yeah,
We've
me
had
too.
some of our family and friends. We had a discussion at dinner the other night and kind of get in. And I had heard of it, but we had never really.
Yeah, we were really curious. I kept hearing about it,
And so people were throwing out, well, I think I'm a 9, and I think I'm a 3, and I think I'm a 4. Well,
Yeah.
4s do this and 5s do that. I'm like, what are they talking about? Like I
Right.
didn't know, but I think it's worth the $12 to.
yeah, it's only 12. Yeah, it's only $12. And if you have just whatever an hour one night and you want to give it a try, I say do it. It can't hurt. It's great for a marriage. It's something that I think companies are also using it as a tool to just kind of understand their.
For leaders to understand their
Yeah.
people and their teammates, and I think I could see it getting a little out of hand too. If like it's thrown down people's throats, like, well, you're this and you're that, so you need to do this, and
Right.
it's like, oh,
I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. Obviously, we're doing the test and we look to see what that means for our relationship. I'm not
Right.
saying, hey, if it comes back and your report says you're a terrible match.
well, that was the first sentence. This is not a very
I
common
mean,
match.
apparently we're like the unicorn, and this is numbers that never
But
come together.
I love how it said it can be enduring and really a good team. If I think it's conscious effort on both parties. So
Yeah.
you think we should do it with the boys and have them take the test?
I
and
thought
see?
about that. I don't know if Dylan's old enough to do it.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see Brandon's results.
Yeah, I think
Our
I'd
older
be
son.
because he's an adult now, so I would be interested to see his results. I kind of have an idea of what I think he might be, but it's interesting because we were chatting with friends the other day. They were like, "Oh, you're a 1," and in the actual result, it says 6s are often confused for 1s.
Yeah. But we also remember I don't remember the exact like which dynamic it was, but somebody said, "Oh, I think you're this," and it was like completely opposite of what you ended up testing as. So it's curious, it's interesting how people's that could be another episode, right? People's interpretations of who you
Right.
are and their perception of who you are.
But this can be good for it's not marriage, friendships, just really understanding who you are as a person.
Yeah.
We always want to work on improving ourselves and, every single day so we can make the most of those relationships.
Sure.
And bring them to, if they're not in a healthy place,
Or lookouts, things to look out
Yeah.
for if you start noticing certain things happening. Maybe it's time to revisit the Enneagram.
Maybe it's time to take that Enneagram test. We would encourage you guys to check it out. It is fun. It only takes, it took Tommy probably 10 minutes. It took me 45 minutes. But again, it's not timed. I just like to read through things slowly. And there's no wrong way to answer.
Yeah.
You're going to answer the way your gut tells you to answer because that's who you are. And again, the website, I know we had mentioned it, and I'll be sure to include it on our Instagram so you guys can go straight to the site. I think you have that, Tom.
Yeah,
What's
so
the
it's
site?
www.enneagraminstitute.com. So it's www.enneagraminstitute.com. We encourage you to do it.
Yeah.
Do it with your friends. Do it with your family. We were going to take the short, free test just to compare notes.
Yeah, there's some quick ones with 10 questions.
But we didn't do it. So maybe if you want to, if you don't want to pay the $12, do it. Or don't do it. But
you'll definitely get a nice detailed 37-page report if you take this
that's
one
right.
out.
It'll just detail everything about your life.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot of fun.
We really thank everyone for jumping on today. We hope it was insightful. I know we thought it was insightful for us in our marriage, and hopefully if you don't have to just be a 3 or a 6 to get something out of what we were talking about today.
Like I said, there's 9, so.
Yeah, so we're excited about continuing these types of conversations. We've got a couple other kind of topics around these types of things that we want to talk about and share with you guys and get your feedback on.
Yeah.
But,
and if you guys take the Enneagram, maybe message us on Instagram. Let us know what your results are. I'm going to post this week about our Enneagram again, just to remind you guys to take a look at this site. But yeah, we'd love to hear what your results are if you don't mind sharing.
And if it was accurate, or if you find it being inconsistent and so on. But anyways, well, thanks guys. We really appreciate it. Till next time, I'm Tommy.
I'm Jackie.
And this is Destination Marriage.
Bye guys.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen on Podbean, iTunes, or Spotify, and hit subscribe. Also, visit us at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage, and be sure to tune in to our next episode.